guys, it's Kim Adsit from KinderGals. Wednesday afternoon. I had the best morning. I got to take my grandson for his first day for preschool, 3-year-old preschool. He was great. My other grandbaby cried because he didn't want to leave his Matthew there. So it was a fun morning. Yesterday I worked in Louisiana with some teachers, and so that was a great day too. So I've had a great week so far. And today I thought we would talk about how to evaluate a piece of students' writing. So here's the problem. You're told you have to give kids a grade in writing. So how do you do that? Well, to give one grade in writing is like comparing apples to oranges. You just can't do it. Because what does an S mean? What does an N mean? So what we're going to do today is we're going to break it down and look at exactly what you can do to evaluate a student writing. Okay, so first of all, the best way to evaluate a student's writing is through a rubric. All right? Now don't worry if you can't read that because I'm going to show you what it says in just a minute. But here's what we did. At the end of each month, our principal wanted us to evaluate the genre that we had taught that month. So at the end of each month, we would collect up a writing and we score it, right, based on this rubric. And then we send those scores in and they look at it in the office and they can figure out what we need to work on as a school. And then our school can send it to the central office and they can figure out what we need to work on as a district. But for you as a classroom teacher, really, what good is it? Because if you've just finished up your personal narrative unit and you're moving on to an all about unit, an informational text unit, what are you going to do about those kids who didn't master that personal narrative unit? So here's what I did. Mid-month, I decided I would do a little mock assessment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all my kids' names down here, and across here I have all the items on the rubric. Okay, there again, don't worry if you can't read that because I'm going to show you what it says in a minute. Just giving you an idea of how I laid the forms out. Okay, so then here's what I did. I took up their writing and I scored it. As I'm looking at each item on the rubric, they can get a 1, 2, or a 3. So if I look down that row and I see like almost all 3s, maybe 5 or 6 that didn't get a 3, then here's what I know. I did a pretty good job teaching that. I only have 6 kids who still need that. So I don't need to still be doing mini lessons on that topic. I need to pull those 6 kids into a small conference group and work on that particular item on the rubric, okay? So let's say you look down there and you see you got a few 3s and, you know, a good number of 2s and a few 1s. So what does that tell you? Well, a couple things. It could tell you that you just haven't taught that yet and you're really surprised anybody got a 3. Or it could mean that whatever you did really wasn't effective as a teacher. So you can go in your lesson plans and write, don't ever do this lesson again because it doesn't work, right? Okay, so the point is by doing this rubric mid-month, now, all my conference groupings that I'm going to do for the next 2 weeks are going to be based on this rubric. I'm sure you've heard this. We want you to do data-driven instruction. And we all kind of cringe and roll our eyes. Well, this really is what data-driven instruction on the classroom level should look like, where you're collecting data and then using that data to decide who needs what. Not a one-size-fits-all. So only put the kids together that need help with something and only provide that conference to that group of children. Okay, so then here's what the rubric actually says. What I did was I put the rubric on a chart. I did it for a couple reasons. Number one, I did it up there for me. Because that way when I sit down to do a mini lesson, my mini lesson should be evident somewhere on this chart. Because if not, why are you doing a mini lesson on that topic? Everything you do in a mini lesson should be related to the rubric because the rubric was written based on the standards that you have to teach. Okay? So here's how you can look at it. I've got 5 bullets on here, right? Well, if I'm going to give a score in writing, I'm going to look at bullets 1 and 2 because really your writing standards have nothing to do with putting text on a piece of paper. It has everything to do with children being able to master the genre. So in this case with a personal narrative, children can draw, write, or dictate a personal narrative. All right? They can master these standards without ever putting a pencil to form letters on their piece of paper. All right? We don't have to wait until they can write text for children to start conveying meanings. If you want more information on that, go back and watch the Facebook Live we did last week on Can All Kids Write? All right? So here's my score for my writing standard. All right? So when I have to, on my report card, give kids a grade or a score in writing, it is based only on these 2 items. Okay? Now, 3 and 4 use letters, words, or sentences and helps the reader. Now, first of all, these 2 are your foundational skills. This is where you find things like use dominant sounds, uses punctuation, uses spaces, uses capital letters, uses vowel sounds correctly, uses the word wall, applies phonics skills, whichever one you're teaching that time of the year. So now these 2 items, they don't affect my writing score. They're going to be under my foundational skills, okay? And then when you come down here to number 5, share my writing with a friend, those are under our speaking and listening standards. And I'll tell you, I think that this is probably the most neglected because we get busy and so we cut off that share time of the mini lesson. We don't give kids that time to share. But really, I'm going to be honest with you, adults who cannot have peer-to-peer conversation or engage in text about conversation about their career, multiple exchanges with a peer. These are the people as adults that have a hard time in their job. So for kids, we want to practice that when they're young. What does it sound like to talk like a writer? And we want them doing that writing, that talk back and forth. So that will be scored under my speaking and listening part of my report card. So what we want to remember is we cannot do just one score. Okay, it's not relevant. It doesn't help you as a teacher. It doesn't help parents. So we want something that will help them, help you, help the parents know what that child needs. Now, I also want to hold my kids accountable. So what I did was I made this rubric in black and white, this rubric in black and white that my kids can keep in their writing folder. Because what I want them to do is, when they are finished with a piece, I want them to take their piece and I want them to look at the rubric and see if there's anything else they need to do to their piece. Now, let me give you a word of caution here. Children do not have to finish every piece they start. So it's not like every single piece of writing they do, they're applying this rubric. This rubric is applied when a child says, man, this is a good piece of writing and I'm done with it and I'm ready to publish this piece of writing. Then we want to take the rubric to that piece of writing. Okay, we don't want kids to get hung up in all of the things on the rubric because then they become a hesitant writer. Okay, so I hope this helps you know a little bit about how I go about scoring their writing. I did do a blog post. It's already up with this same information, but I also put a couple samples in there on my blog post, and I showed you how I would have scored that. That way you can kind of look at their samples and know what my thought processes would have been when I scored that writing. All right, so that's it for Workshop Wednesday. I'm headed to the gym. I hope y'all are going to have a good evening. I'll see you again on Sunday afternoon. My husband says we're going to call it Grab Bag Sunday. But I'll see you on Sunday with some more ideas. See y'all later. Bye.